Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. We've got a bunch of folks here in the audience. Thanks for coming by. I'm Amy Snell, if we haven't met before, and I've got Karen Heitkamp and Xandy Peters with me today. We're going to talk all about our Alaska Summer 2025 cruise, and you'll get to ask us questions. We'll get to share about our classes and lots of other things about the cruise and about Alaska. I'm going to ask everybody to stay muted other than Karen and Xandy, just because it's a lot of folks and we want to keep the outside noise to a minimum. But we can take questions and you can put them in the chat, or if things settle out and we have just a few questions, we might go ahead and have folks on mute for them. But I think we'll start out by giving everybody a chance to talk and introduce themselves. And Sandy, why don't you go ahead and get started?
Okay, well, hi, I'm Xandy Peters, and I'm so excited to be joining Amy and Karen for this cruise. Amy and I have worked together at all sorts of knitting events. We tend to show up in the same places because we have a similar type of audience for the types of classes that we teach. So on this cruise, the three classes that I'll be teaching are really all about being adventurous. So the first one that I'd like to talk about is my stacked stitch technique class. We are not going to be making one of these nice fox paws scarves that some of you may have seen, but we will be learning the stacked stitch technique, which is a color work and shaping technique where you take one color and make a really wavy stripe. It's got no like floats on the back, and the fabric's pretty light and elastic because of that. So it's an interesting technique for increases and decreases. It can be used for color work, shaping, all sorts of things. And that is my first class that I'll be teaching on the cruise. Now, I didn't look at the timeline of the schedule, so I said first, but I don't know where it falls in time. I just realized that. I'll also be teaching some classes that are focused on using algorithms to determine your stitch pattern. So I will also be teaching a class that I call Stitch by Color. This class is all about taking the color of your yarn as an input and using that color to determine what stitch you're doing in a piece. So I'll show you a few swatches in this technique. Some of you may be familiar with this as they call it assigned pooling now. So this is a variegated yarn, and all different stitches in this are determined by the color of the yarn. You can see this is do an eyelet where there's blue. So we're going to learn all sorts of different stitch techniques that go with this stitch by color concept. But the goal of the class is actually to work in more than two colors. So that assigned pooling concept is fun, but I want to, in class, get you working on something with lots of colors. You can see different ways of organizing those really frantic and hectic colors. And we will probably, I don't want to make any promises, okay? But we will probably be offering some yarn in a kit in a custom color inspired by Alaska, a multicolored yarn that you can get one or two skeins to make one of these stitch by color projects. You can see there's some interesting effects. And obviously, we won't be picking the craziest color yarn that you can work with. But I'll show you this project. This is a larger scale version of it. You can see I've got this multicolor yarn. It's green and purple, and I've split it up by stitch in different ways, and it creates an unusual effect. So that's our Stitch by Color class. The last class that I'll be teaching is called Color Work Games, and this one is so much fun. It's literally 3 different games that you can play in order to design a color work project. So the example project in the class is a cowl. This is actually, I published this as a standalone pattern a few months ago, but this is the Truchet cowl, and this is the first project in the class. And what we're going to do is not knit any of these projects, we're going to take little tiles of grid and arrange them into a pattern however we want and play around with those. And then we're going to use different techniques to do that, to create different patterns, including making gridded color work dice that we roll. It's a super fun class if you like doing stranded color work. And I know that that's one of Amy's favorites to teach, is the ladder back to card. So those are my three classes, and I'll hand it over to Karen.
Do I get a big screen? Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Heitkamp, and I'm a fluid artist, not a fiber artist. And I'm super excited to be introducing you all to a fun and easy and experience on the cruise, along with all the wonderful artistry in the knitting world. So we're going to work with some alcohol inks, and we're going to take some everyday items, and you can make them any way you like, but they will all be amazingly beautiful. We're going to, because we're on a ship, we can't, I don't know if anyone has ever used alcohol inks before, but they're usually in a small bottle and things go flying and you have to wear, things you don't mind getting ink all over. But there's a wonderful bunch of people who came up with alcohol ink pens. So you can apply it very safely and cleanly for yourself and also the cruise. And then we have a little bottle of alcohol that we use to help it move around. And I'm going to bring a variety of items. I made this ocean and sand beachy kind of mug that you can make. And there's other items from just regular glassware. I didn't do this one. This is just how it comes, but we'll work to figure out all the colors you want to use, and also the different techniques that we have to move the ink and combine the ink in different colors. Unlike yarn, the ink gets to blend and make new things. So again, a lot of color. I do have some things in the background I realize you can't see very well. So I'm going to excuse my shorts. So I made something for Christmas, a little bell, and then I used some other colors to make another mug. So there's also, I'll bring a whole bunch of things that you can decide what you want to do. So first we'll work out what the colors look like as you move them, some different techniques to applying them. So we'll have lots of practice before you actually go to your item and figure out what you want to do. And also bring pens. You can make it a background and make trees, or if you want to put a little whale in your cup, you can do that too. And then you'll be able to use them on the cruise, take them home as a little memento. So I
Now,
think,
do they have to be
do they have to be what?
fired?
No, it's just,
So how could you can you wash them?
yeah, they're going to have a dishwasher safe coating on the outside that we'll put on the cruise. So I think they'll be fun. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Karen.
If anyone has any questions.
Thank you. And if you have some questions, you go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll circle back and we can ask the questions of Karen and Xandy, things maybe you'll think of in a few minutes and that you haven't thought of just yet. And that's great. So hi, I'm Amy. I am going to also be teaching knitting classes. As Xandy mentioned, we do seem to run in the same circles. We tend to teach a lot in the same places, which was why I think Xandy was one of the first people that came to mind for me when I was thinking about who we wanted to invite on this cruise. It's worth mentioning, I think, at this point that Karen and I are the co-organizers of the cruise. We are long friends and have worked together in a lot of different roles over the years. And this has been sort of a long time dream of ours to bring together some knitting trips and events that will delight us and bring a lot of, I hope, joy and fun and comradeship, and allow you knitters a chance to enjoy and celebrate each other in a really wonderful setting, which I think Alaska is absolutely one of the most stunning settings in the world. So on our way there and on our way back, on our sea days, we're going to be teaching these knitting classes, and mine, as Xandy's and Karen's do, mine focus on color. This was the theme that we wanted to kind of bring throughout the cruise. And so I'm going to be teaching classes, and I chose 3 that I think are accessible for really and of interest to really different levels of knitters. So hopefully, no matter where you are, I know we might even have 1 or 2 knitters on the trip who are, more beginner level knitters. We tried to make sure that there were things that were accessible to you. And if you're a really expert knitter, we also put in things that hopefully are going to be interesting and eye-opening and exciting for you too. So the 3 classes I'm going to teach, one that is accessible for really every knitter at every level, is we're going to make these felted coasters, the fizzy drinks felted coasters. These are a real favorite of mine. They're literally my favorite coasters, because everything else, I don't know, the water rolls off them, or they stick to my glass and things. And I realized I just absolutely love felted wool for for coasters. And so this is a really easy pattern. It's slip stitch mosaic. You can do a single background color, or you can play with background colors, and we'll have a chance in class to knit up one of them and then to do the felting right there in class. I don't know if you've ever done hand felting, but it's a lot of fun. We'll use some non-superwash wool, and we will actually have the chance to hand felt it in class. It really only takes 5 or 10 minutes. And I love throwing my felting stuff into a washing machine and something like that, but you can actually hand felt stuff. And it's really a fun process for me, because I get to do all the things that you're not supposed to do with your knitting. Like, I absolutely beat it up. Like, I don't like it at all. I hate you knitting. I scrunch it and I wring it out, and then I stick it in cold water and I wring it out some more and I shove it in hot water. And anyway, I work out a little bit of aggression when I make these. So that's going to be a really fun class. And then the second class, again, I don't know the exact order, but a second class that I'm teaching is called Colorific Cast-Ons. We go through just a bunch of really interesting 2 and 3 color cast-ons and some bind-offs, where we look at different effects. That one's got a hair in it, like most of my knitting does. Different effects, both on the needles and in the cast on edge. And we get to see what some different 2 and 3 color cast ons and bind offs look like. This has a similarity to this one. It's actually made quite differently. And when we turn it over, the edge is also different. And when we look at these 2, we have one of them where the color lines up a little bit more directly above the stitch, and one where it's just off to the side. We've also got ones where the stitch lines up opposite of the edge stitch, and ones that we can do in 3 colors and more. And that's just something that I like to add on to edges of projects. I think it's a lot of fun, especially when we're doing more color work project where we're going to have more color involved later in our piece. I think it's a lot of fun to start and have a colored cast on. The final class that I want to talk about is my ladderback jacquard class. And Xandy's right, that is probably my favorite class to teach. It is a technique for colorwork stranding that allows you to span any distance in your colorwork without floats. So if you're combining this with Xandy's like crazy colorwork games class, and you're gonna, come up with something insane, and you're like, I can't knit this. It has 15 stitches between motifs. Yes, you can absolutely knit that, even if it has 15 stitches between motifs, if you learn ladder-back jacquard. Ladder-back jacquard is a method. I'll show it on this little guy here. It is a method for spanning stretches between stitches where we work a ladder on the back of our knitting. And it's really got a lot of advantages over locking floats or catching floats because the floats don't show through on the front at all. They're completely invisible. And the resulting work is a lot stretchier than it would be if you had floats. A lot of folks will complain about the way that floats interfere with the stretch of a project. So if you haven't yet learned this class, if you haven't taken this class from me, it's a favorite. I love it. And I do use it in my knitting a lot. So here's my real life example, unretouched photos. This section, you don't have to use ladder back in a whole project, and you can use it. You can kind of put it in where you need it, take it out where you don't. So this section here of the sweater uses ladder back jacquard just in these rows where the motifs get really far apart. And I'll show that on the inside. Everybody always wants to see the floats, right? Don't we always want to see the floats as knitters? So here are the floats. And down here's the section where I'm using ladder back, where the floats get really long, where I added in ladder back. That's this here. So those floats are controlled, right? They're not too long. The ladder keeps everything at a good stretch. There's no difference on the front in the appearance of the work from where I used ladder back and where I didn't. And most importantly of all, there's some pilling, because that's the yarn that I use does pill, but there's absolutely no peek through. I've got a pretty light and a pretty dark yarn there, and there's absolutely no peek through. Just some pilling. I need to shave my sweater, obviously. So yeah, so those are my classes, and I'm happy to answer questions about those. And I'm also going to bring Xandy and Karen up again on the spotlight. I see we've got some questions in the chat. Thanks, Holly. If after this intro we want a different class, can we request that? Yes, I believe you can do that by sending an email to Karen. Is that the best way?
Probably, yeah.
So wants to change their preferences, and we're doing our best to get everybody in the classes, the class preferences that you want. And the second question, half of the question, is when will we know what classes we'll be in? About 2 months before the cruise, we will have locked in everyone's classes, and you'll get notified your classes, materials and things like that, and any.
So are they, does each teacher have a kit, or do you bring your own stuff? Or I thought Sincere Sheep was gonna dye a yarn for it, like a sweater or something that we could do.
Yeah, Beverly, great questions. The classes and what materials you're going to need are going to vary from class to class. I do have at least one yarn company that's interested in sponsoring the yarn for a couple of our for one or more of our classes. So where I can get that for you, we're going to get that and have it supplied for you. That's probably not going to be true of every class. There may be some classes where we'll tell you what to bring. And that might be as simple as, for my ladder back jacquard class, I tell folks, hey, bring 2 colors of yarn in a worsted Aran weight that's a kind of a smooth yarn in 2 contrasting colors. So you'll get those very specific instructions when you're assigned into a class. And the reason why we're not assigning everybody into a class in advance is that that mark is, it's about, well, you may 2 to 3 months out is when you'll hear, and that's when we have everyone's final payment finished, and we have what we hope is that, everyone is at their, we have all of our final numbers, and we know exactly who is where.
So how many people are coming so far?
We are about 50. We have room for up to 72 knitters would be our max. So we have room for some more knitters. We have room for about 20 more knitters. I'm gonna go through some of these other questions that we have. Let's see. Grace wants to know the sizes of the class. That's going to vary a little bit. I know the fluid ink classes, the alcohol ink classes are a little smaller. Those will max out at 18, and our knitting classes will max out at 24. But if we're not sailing at capacity, those will be smaller classes. And Doris wants to know, where can she find the info on which classes you registered for? Karen, can I put you on the spotlight there?
Yeah, if anyone has any questions about their booking or what classes you signed up for, you can send me an email. I added it to the chat there at Karen@seascapeknittrips.com, and I'm happy to supply the information or make changes to your class choices.
Sure. Yeah. And
well, we haven't chosen classes yet, have we?
If
yes,
your booking form had class choices.
I don't remember that, but so I don't know what I depict.
Well, send me an email and I'll send you what you chose.
And that seems to be a popular question. Sue and Lisa both were wondering about, when did we sign up for classes? And that was in your registration. There was a priority where we asked you to choose and prioritize which classes you were most interested in. And then based on the order that you registered for the cruise, where we're trying to get everyone into the classes you want. We did give some priority to those that registered earliest to get the classes that are closest to your request. But
and how many classes do we take? I thought we took all of them.
Sure, just I'll get to that next. Thanks, Beverly.
Okay. I know I got a big mouth, but
we're here for the questions. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. Yeah. So sorry, lost my train of thought. But your class priorities were during registration. And if you want to review what the classes are or look at those, the website, the Seascape Knit Trips website has a page with the classes and the full descriptions and things like that. So let's see. Beverly wanted to know how many classes we get. Everyone gets the alcohol inks class with Karen, and then 3 knitting classes. And so we're trying to get you into your top choices of classes in order to offer classes that are attractive to and accessible to a range of knitters. We didn't want to put everyone in every single exact class. We tried to give you some choices. And I know there might be people who have taken one of these classes before with one of us. So we wanted to give you the flexibility there. Xandy, you were holding something up before. Was that Ladderback Jacquard?
I was actually accidentally holding this up. I was actually just looking at this because this is a project that I show in my color work games class, and it has peek through where I trapped my floats. And I was just thinking that it's really perfect that we're doing those 2 classes on the same trip, because it does come up a lot where just the long floats would have been better in Ladderback Jacquard. That's all.
Yeah.
Very useful technique.
It is. It's super useful.
Yeah. Because what is Sincere Seed dyeing yarn for?
Right. Thank you for bringing us back around to that question I had forgotten. So,
I can't remember her name, but
Yeah.
she lives
Yep.
not too far from me.
Yeah, Brooke. Brooke is
Brooke, yeah.
is the dyer at Sincere Sheep. So, as an optional thing, well, let me rephrase. Okay, so there is going to be a pattern. I've designed an exclusive knitting pattern for the trip that is going to be, everybody gets the pattern. That'll be part of your goodie bag. You're going to have, oh, you guys, they're going to love these goodie bags. They're like crazy great. But everyone's going to get this pattern in your goodie bag, and you will get instructions again a couple of months before the trip that tell you if you want to bring your own stash yarn to knit. We'll tell you what kind of yarn to bring, and we'll tell everybody what kind of needles you'll need to make this project. And you'll have an option, if you'd like, you're going to have an option to order a trip exclusive colorway from Sincere Sheep, and that will happen in the next couple of months. And so that's an optional thing if you want to have the trip exclusive yarn to make the pattern. I have designed something that I think everybody will probably be able to complete while we're on the trip, and maybe even use while we're on the trip. It is going to be a little bit of a surprise pattern. I can show a photo if we'd like to see an inspiration photo. I can share the inspiration photo. It might take me a couple of minutes to find that, but I will find the inspiration photo. So the trip exclusive pattern is a little bit of a surprise. I'll show you the inspiration photo, but you'll get that on board, and you'll have the option if you want to get the special yarn for that. It's and we'll send everybody emails to tell you when that is available to order, and you don't have to. It's a it's a choice if you think that it's fun and you like these kind of like secret mystery yarn surprise things for your project. And it'll be a kit with exactly the right yarns for using. And if you choose not to get the kit, I'll give you some advice if you maybe have something that you want to use from your own stash. I'm going to try to find a question that one of my other guests can answer so that I can find that inspiration picture. Doris was asking how long classes are. Knitting classes are a half day. They're 3 hours. And then also in the so the classes are going to be in the mornings, and in the afternoons we're going to have lectures, lectures some days and fun and games other days. So we're going to have some things that are a little bit lighthearted and don't require too much focus and concentration. I found that when I teach full long days on retreats and events, and people are in class morning and afternoon, that it can get to be really hard to pay attention and focus, and folks tend to need a break. So we designed this with classes in the mornings, and then in the afternoon, on those C days in the afternoon, we will either have some fun things to do, or we'll have a lecture, which I think takes a little bit less focus and concentration and brain power. Sandy, do you want to talk about your lecture that you're going to do?
I think I'm doing color theory. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I looked at it before I came in, and I've got a lecture that's happening in a few days, and yeah. So I will be doing a lecture about color theory for fiber artists, and one of the things that I love about this lecture is that it isn't just a color theory lesson. It doesn't tell you what to do. I mean, unfortunately for some of you who are looking for that, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to look at different ways that color interacts with fiber. We're going to learn about different fiber types, different ways of dyeing yarn. So when you go in to ask for a yarn at a yarn store, you know the vocab, and you know how to look for the effects that you want in your fiber, whether you're looking for a tweed or a marled color or something hand dyed. There are all different terms for that. And then we talk about how color acts it's in combination, because when you put colors together, they look different than they do on their own. So we go into a little bit of that color theory in the sense that we're really exploring different properties. And then we take out our knits. If you want to bring an example of something you've made that you liked, or I have everyone make a little swatch. You can knit or crochet a striped swatch. And what I like to do is tell people to use yarns that are difficult for that one and see how it turns out, because it's a very low stakes way to play around with color. And then we all talk about what worked and what didn't. There are also some coloring pages that I send out before the class that you can fill in. If you don't want to knit something, you can bring a colored in page, because what we're going to be really looking at is just that interaction of color and how things look once you put them together, which I think is the trickiest part of picking colors for knits. You get your yarn sometimes and you think you know what you have, and then you go to make the project and things are not what you thought they were. So that's what we're kind of dealing with, and there are tips and tricks on what to do after you have that situation as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. Karen, there was a question here about whether alcohol inks can be used on fiber.
Well, they are a permanent ink, so I suppose you could. I think you'd be more likely to use not the pens, but the actual liquid that comes in a bottle. But we could see, bring it.
That's fun. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. And since Sandy mentioned their lecture, I'll say the lecture that I'm going to give is a lecture called "The Right Yarn for the Job," and it's something that I think really these two really build nicely on each other. My lecture talks about, well, we look at some mispairings of yarn and project. Sometimes we haven't chosen the best yarn for the project, and some of the kind of comical errors sometimes that happen from that. And that includes not just color, but also fiber type and weight and a lot of other things that go into those choices. But color is a big piece of that. And that's going to be, I think, really building on the things that Sandy's talking about. We'll have everyone gets both of those lectures. The afternoon activities every afternoon are open to everybody. I mean, everybody in the knitting group, not everybody on the ship, but you'll all be in the lectures, and we'll also have some fun and games. We are planning an afternoon of knitting themed sort of game show type games. That's going to be one of our afternoons. One of our afternoons, we're going to do an afternoon tea on the ship. Yeah. And there will be a hat contest because tea, I just, sometimes you wear a fancy hat to tea, right? So we're going to invite everybody to wear a fancy hat, whatever that means to you. It might not be a kind of traditional hat that one might wear to tea, but we're going to encourage that kind of fun and maybe a little bit of silliness there. We are going to have a lot of contests and things throughout the cruise. With prizes and things. I love prizes. I think that's a lot of fun. And we're going to have a day where we have a maker's showcase at sea. So we are going to invite everybody to bring, maybe you have something that you have knit or created that if you would like to show off. We're going to have a time when we can do that and share that with everyone. This is a great question from Nancy. Nancy is asking about notes available from my lecture. She heard the presentation with the Guild in Sedona, and there was a lot of great information you wish you could have written down. That's a great question. I will have to think about what might be a way to access that. I do have a slide presentation that I give during that lecture, and I'll have to consider whether or how I might share notes from that. it might be it might mean something like just emailing stuff afterwards or something if that's wanted. But I really appreciate that you asked, because this is, I think, an opportunity for us to really get to hear what it is that's important to you. And we have a couple. So Grace was asking for clarity. Are the 3 classes included in the price of the cruise? Yes. The price that you've paid for the cruise includes your 3 knitting classes, plus your alcohol inks class, plus all the 2 lectures, plus all the fun and games, plus your swag bag. That's all covered. Someone else asked about, are there excursions specific to our knitting group, organized excursions? And that's the piece we have not organized for you. That's with Alaska being Alaska. We wanted to give you every opportunity to explore Alaska in the ways that you're really interested in exploring. And so there are so many excursions available either. And we did send an email to everybody, I think last week, kind of talking about some of those options, but there are so many excursions available. Either you can book through the cruise itself, which is generally the more expensive option for an excursion, but everything is just there for you. That's easy. Alaska is a place where there are tons of excursions that you can just book right through the providers themselves. Sometimes I'm a sneaky traveler, and sometimes I look at what the excursion is for the port that the ship is offering, and then I go on the website and I just find that and I book it direct through the people that are actually offering the tour, and I get a better rate. But I'm an adventurous traveler, and so we all we can make the choices. All of these ports have really cool stuff that we can explore even on foot, right from where we get off the ship. Little shops, and some of them have you can go see glaciers, and sometimes you get off the ship. Alaska is one of these places. It's very easy to walk off the ship, and then they have people with placards, and they say, "Hey, jump on this whale watching cruise right now." And Alaska's kind of like that. So if you are a last minute person, you want to get off the ship and see what the weather is that day and see what you want to do that day, you can also handle things that way. Yeah. Great question from Madison. How many bags are we allowed to bring? 1 knitting, 1 clothes, 1 or 2 for purchases? Yes. Madison, you are unlimited on the ship for how many knit bags you want to bring. Your airline might limit you on bags, but the ship will not limit you on bags. You can bring lots of bags. Karen and I are going to have so many bags because we have all this stuff and all the prizes and all the swag bags and things. We're going to probably take like 2 or 3 vehicles to get it all there. But the great questions. And especially if you haven't cruised before, we can answer some questions tonight, and we can continue to answer questions on the Ravelry group and the Facebook group. Because people, if you haven't done this kind of cruise before, or you haven't done any cruise before, we can continue conversations there too. Xandy, didn't you bring some photos of Alaska from one of your trips?
I did. It's funny that you mentioned whales, because I live in New England. I'm not like a stranger to whale watching, but I've never actually seen whales in the Atlantic Ocean, right? We go out there like it's whale watching, and we watch for the whales, but the whales don't show up. So one of the craziest things about Alaska is that the whales they live there. So I brought some. Feels like a little weird and cheesy to do to a bunch of people who are a captive audience, kind of. But I brought some travel photos from the last time I did a cruise. It was a day cruise out in Seward Bay where there were whales. So I'm just going to I just want to show you. These are like mediocre pictures of Alaska. The thing is that Alaska looks amazing. So the pictures tend to turn out pretty well. So we saw some seals. This is the sort of thing that they just have around. So my girlfriend's actually from Anchorage, and her father lives in the city still, and he volunteers at a nature reserve as well. So I've seen a bunch of things like the Kiviat, but you can see whale. Very close. I left this in even though it's a bad picture. Very close picture of a whale. They got very close to to the ship that we were on. Orcas all over the place. It was amazing to actually see an animal like that in real life. There are a bunch of whales, and then we saw sea lions out on the cliffs. That's a different kind of whale. I think it's a humpback whale. You can see the tail. That's probably the coolest whale picture that I got, and it was way more amazing in real life because it's hard to get a picture of something when you're freaking out about it. But we also saw some glaciers. So the interesting thing about the glaciers in Alaska is that they're actually blue. The ice is blue, like it looks fake, kind of blue, because of the type of ice in the glaciers. And I wanted to show these sea lions because there were so many of them. Look at this guy. He's just out. So the wildlife is really amazing up in Alaska. If you end up taking some time after your cruise to explore on your own and go hiking a little bit, you might see some bears. We saw a mama bear. We were in a car, okay? Everything was safe. But we saw a mama bear and her little cubs climbing up a tree. And there were so many of these black bears. They're actually like, you don't bother them, they don't bother you, but also we were in a car, right?
Sandy, can I add a comment about bears?
Yeah.
Okay, because there's when we were in Alaska, there is a place you can go. I will write an email to everybody to tell you how to get here. If you go to see the Mendenhall Glacier when you're in Juneau, you go to the parking lot, and it's easy to get because there's even public buses that take you there for like $1.50. But you get off the when you get off and you're in the parking lot, if instead of walking to the visitor center, you turn left and you go down, there's like this boardwalk path, and the bears are just there. They're salmon fishing, and there's usually a docent, and they're just there. They were like 20 feet from us, and they didn't want to eat us because the salmon were more delicious and easier. My son asked.
There is a lot of fishing in Alaska if you're a fan. But the bears are generally okay. One thing though is that you should not go out alone if you don't know where you're going in Alaska. My girlfriend lived in Anchorage, which is the city, like a proper city for most of her life, although it's a city the size of Rhode Island with a lot of nature in it. But she also lived in Utqiagvik, also known as Point Barrow, which is the northernmost town, like full stop. And there are some kind of adventurous places to go up there. They have a lot of eagles. And I just thought I'd make sure that we got to these Kiviat photos. So in Alaska, in June, the Kiviat shed their coat, and the Kiviat are the musk ox. The musk ox are the animals that have the Kiviat fiber that's so warm and expensive. And you can see it, the fur and tufts a little bit. It's shedding off the top here. When we went to the nature reserve, there was just tufts of Kiviat. Oops, the bear. There were just tufts of Kiviat everywhere on the ground. That's the mother ox with the baby musk ox. And they're trying to kind of preserve the population. So in the nature reserve outside of Anchorage, they have a lot of animals. They're trying to, repopulate, and some moose and stuff. But it's a really great place. Alaska's a really great place to go see some wildlife. It's kind of all around, and the bird watching is really great. I'm looking at the questions about the 26 Glacier cruise out of Whittier. No, Whittier's an interesting place with the tunnel. Whittier's a town that has a tunnel that's like got 2 lanes, and you can either go this way or that way. So you have to wait 20 minutes because the direction of the tunnel switches every 20 minutes. And almost everyone in the town lives in the same apartment building, which is super interesting. I've eaten lunch there, but I have never gone on a boat cruise out of there. The cruise that we went on was actually out of Seward, which is my favorite place to log into the Wi-Fi and get a virus on my phone. I've done it twice. So, yeah, but it is an amazing place to go, and there tend to be around Alaska, every place that you stop, there will be a quilt shop, but don't be deceived. In that quilt shop, there's going to be yarn because it's cold.
Yes. I put together, those of you who are already registered for the cruise will have gotten the email last week about all the yarn shops and the listing of the yarn shops in each of our ports and their addresses and their opening hours and things. And the ones that aren't usually open on the days we're there, I'm talking to them to say, hey, we're gonna be there with a group of knitters, and maybe you'll want to open up, and we'll see if they'll open up for us. So this kind of merges really nicely with the question I saw about whether there's any yarn to buy on the boat or whether you should bring your yarn with you. There's not going to be yarn to buy on the boat, but there will be yarn to buy in the ports. So I would suggest, bring your project, bring what you're planning to knit. And then, if you're inspired to knit something new, there will be yarn shops. I believe there's at least one shop at every stop that we're going to make. And the Kiviot that Xandy was showing is available in a few of them. They have some of the yarn, and some of it's a mix, some of it we might get lucky and be able to get 100% Kiviot, which is really expensive and hard to find.
One of the things to note about the Kiviot is that there are a few ways to get it, but if you do have the opportunity, the like native people who collect it the traditional way and spin it have a collective, like it's like a co-op, so everyone gets, like, all the people, because it's hand done, the fiber collectors get paid a fair wage, the spinners get paid. So it's really expensive, but it's extremely warm, and it's really supporting a local fiber craft, which I know everyone here is probably interested in preserving that tradition.
I see that there's other people that didn't get the email. I didn't get any email about yarn shops, and if there's any quilting shops, I want to go to them too. So maybe send it again.
Thanks, Beverly. Yeah, we did see some of the yarn shops are yarn and quilting shops, and I'm going to type into the chat if anyone didn't get the email last week that talked about the yarn shops. I talked about the yarn shops, I talked about excursion options and things like that, and everyone who's registered for the cruise should have gotten that. If you're not registered for the cruise, we didn't send you that particular email, but I can if maybe you're still considering coming on the cruise and you want that kind of information. If you're not getting those emails, please, I'm going to put my email address in here, and I would like to know that you're not getting them, because it means that they're going to your spam filter, and we want to make sure that everyone's getting the important information that we're sending out. So yeah, drop me a line. I'm about to put that in the chat here about that. And while I type that in, Karen, I know you've been to Alaska on a cruise before. Do you have any favorite things that you would like to share with us about?
Oh, so many. Coming from, here in the Bay Area in California, I was just astonished at how all the bald eagles are like seagulls there. They just swarm the ship, and you see them everywhere. That was amazing. And the wild, everything about Alaska. But the thing about a cruise to Alaska that I really, really enjoyed is there is something to look at all the time. I've been on a few cruises that have a lot of ocean days, and like, oh, the sea, that's very nice. But the Alaska cruise, you're going by different islands. There's icebergs floating by. There's the whales. right near your ship. And yeah, there's a lot to see. And they always have a naturalist on board, or I'm assuming they will. I think the ones I went on did. And they give talks about what you're going to see in the next day or two, wherever they're going. And it's a stunning place. And it's indescribable. I could go on. If you need more.
No, I agree. Alaska was I had the most amazing experience when the first Alaska cruise I went on, and just loved it. And one of the things I didn't get to see that time was Glacier Bay. So we chose very carefully, we chose an itinerary that would have Glacier Bay because that's limited and they only let 2 ships a day in there now. So we're fortunate to have that on our itinerary, and that remains on our itinerary. I know we did have those itinerary changes that they did a couple of months ago. And I talked about that in that email last week too, but we did have a question about that. I think it might have been Lisa just asking, someone was asking earlier down up here about, oh, sorry, it was Linda. Since the itinerary changed, will the excursions be automatically changed to the new dates? Yes. That if you booked an excursion through Princess through the cruise line, the excursions will automatically change and be in line with our current itinerary. And that would only apply to any excursions that you booked before. I think the itinerary changed sometime in the summer. It might have been July or June. So if you booked an excursion prior to that, and then they made that change, and now we're in those towns on a different day, the cruise line will change that. And if you haven't yet, then the excursions are lined up on the correct days. And you can always, if you booked with the cruise line, check back in with them. And if you're booking through an independent provider, they work with cruise people all the time, and they all have policies around, any shuttles. But we feel like we're now close enough to the cruise that we're feeling like our dates are firmed up. There are things that cruise ports do change, and but we're now within the time frame when the ports do not tend to change their policies, so we feel confident about being where we think we're going to be on the days that we think we're going to be there. What kind of temperatures can we expect? We've probably all had very, very, very different experiences in Alaska. I know I brought, fleece vest, windbreaker, definitely, hats and gloves, like, because there are day and waterproof things. And then there were like sunny days, right? So Xandy, you probably might have spent the most time of any of us in Alaska.
Not in August. If I
Oh.
went in August, see, here's the thing. If I go in August and I have to visit people, I might get recruited into doing like work. Especially because Ellie's father used to work. So Ellie's father was he's a lawyer, and he's done all sorts of jobs. So he was actually for a long time, he was a judge in one of the villages in the middle of a river. There's an island called Aniak. And so it was like a 300-person town, and he would fly all over Alaska setting up court places. So in August, they'd be fishing for salmon. And so I would have had to gut fish if we visited. And that's not like my thing, like, because it's subsistence out there. And it was like, he had to catch a certain amount of fish and then give some to the elders in the village, the whole cultural thing. So August, though, is usually pretty warm, like 60 degrees during the day, 60, 70. In June, it was like 60, 70. In August, it's like 60, 70. I'm going to tell you something. In November, when we go for Thanksgiving, it's usually like 40 degrees. It's like not that cold in Alaska anymore. Noticeably warmer than when Ellie was a kid. But the biggest thing is waterproof shoes if you're going to walk around.
Yeah.
And like some sort of rain thing, because it can be really like damp.
Mm-hmm.
And like quick dry stuff.
Well, wool does stay warm while it's wet.
Yeah.
As we probably all know.
layers, but like wool's great because it's breathable.
Yeah.
When I go up in the winter, I bring a pair of wool pants, like knit, like sweater pants. Um, but at least father tends to be big on the hiking. So I don't know if anyone's going to be doing anything like canoeing.
Maybe.
Maybe. I will share. I was looking for when our trip, which was 10 years ago, we did have one day that we dressed really warmly because when we were in Skagway, and you can still do this, we got in a helicopter, we got walked off the ship and walked like 50 yards to the helicopter heliport and got on a helicopter. I'll share pictures. Um, and went on a helicopter up onto a glacier. And Karen, didn't you do something like this on your?
Yeah. And then we took a dog sled.
Yeah. Our glacier did not have a dog sled, but this is my kids at that time on the glacier. And so this was how we were dressed. We were dressed pretty warmly. They had their boots on. That was key. And yeah, the glacier water is actually blue. It's kind of amazing. But that was up on the glacier. We were dressed like that. And then a couple days later, we were actually the same day we were down in town and we're just in sweatshirts. It was really mild. So, and we had days where it was, days where it was overcast or a little bit rainy or a little misty. And then we had days where it was beautiful and sunny. And so it was a total mix. And in Alaska, in August, one of the things that I really love is that's when the salmon are running, and that's why we got to see the bears when we did, because the rivers are just absolutely teeming with fish.
In all honesty, now that they're not doing it to live, it would be an amazing experience to go fishing, and you can set up fishing trips as a tourist with guides and stuff. The licenses for salmon are a little bit tricky because they have different tiers for different levels of residency. But you can get your fishing license and go out. I have an Alaska fishing license too. So
it's cool. This is
I've never used it, but I have it.
This was in Ketchikan, the stream that goes through the middle of town. It really looked like you could have walked across the stream on the backs of the salmon. There were so many of them in there. And what I don't have a picture of is when we were in Skagway, we were walking through, like, there's a little park along the stream that goes through that town. And there was a guy who had his 5 or 6-year-old son wearing overalls, and he was holding the kid by the back of the overalls and lowered the kid just over the stream. And the kid grabbed a salmon and hugged it to him and to his chest. And the dad pulled the kid up. And we stood there watching this whole thing. And the dad looks up and says, "Don't tell his mother." I don't know if it's legal to grab to salmon fish by grabbing it, but there were so many you really could have done.
Actually, so the limitation, do you want to know the real answer? Because what at least father as a judge mostly did was hunting and fishing violations, like tickets. Because in Alaska, if you like get the wrong animal, like you don't count enough points on the antlers, it's underage. And you have to report it, and then you donate the animal and stuff, and it gets distributed, like it's dealt with in a humane way. If you don't report it, you lose your license if you get caught. So there are regulations. The regulations are actually on like setting up a net that catches the salmon as they go into it and automatically catching them, rather than if you're like manually fishing them. Like there are limits on how many you can catch and eat, though, because they don't want over hunting. But I think only native Alaskans can set up the like the dam that catches all the fish.
Yeah. Well, Lisa was saying she might need a new wardrobe here, as it's usually 65 in San Francisco. I think honestly, it can be that warm in August in Alaska. It can be that warm some of the time. And then, obviously we want our layers, right? Like here was the our day. This is the Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau. And I think my son is just in a long sleeve tee over a regular t-shirt. And I have something weatherproof over, I don't know what, maybe a sweatshirt or I don't know what was underneath there, but there's my weatherproof layer. So yeah, layers are good. The knitters are good at having things to stay warm.
It's honestly, Alaska is pretty warm in the summer, and you don't have to worry too much about it. We're also not going that far north. Um, it's if you have San Francisco weather, think of San Francisco winter, that's like, or San Francisco fall. It's pretty close to Alaska summer. It's not,
Yeah.
you're actually probably set.
Our cool weather in the Bay Area. It's like probably something like Alaska summer.
It's not too far. I mean, compared to where I am.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're leaving out of San Francisco because it's only an hour away from me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, and we have it's a Monday morning departure. So if folks are coming in from other places and want to have a chance to see San Francisco, we thought that they would have, the opportunity that they could spend a couple of days exploring San Francisco. Kim's saying, oh, she's in Arizona where it's over 100 in August. Yeah. So you'll be wearing your winter wardrobe for sure, Kim. Yeah, and hey, Sharon's going to come from Connecticut too.
Sharon, you are experiencing our extremely dry Connecticut weather right now. I'll be coming from Connecticut to San Francisco as well.
Yeah. Oh, Madison's in the South Bay, as am I, and so is Karen. Yeah, South Bay, San Francisco Bay area, which I think that it throws me sometimes. Like in LA, there's apparently a South Bay or a Bay something that other people, we're not the only South Bay. The other places have that same name. Yeah. Grace is still looking for a roommate, I think she said, and and that's Karen, this is a really good opportunity actually to talk about that, about roommates and finding folks to travel with.
Yeah, so I highly recommend. I know that we actually have a handful of people who are looking for roommates, and I'm thinking you could all get together. But introducing yourselves on the Facebook page or the Ravelry group. And I know some people have already connected through that. And then if you still are having trouble connecting and you would like a little help, if parties are interested, I can introduce you to other people who are looking for a roommate. I know for me, it would be, I'd have to interview someone. So I don't, want to be the, I don't know, the mom saying, oh, you and you should get together. But the Facebook page and the Ravelry group are a great place to start. And then if you need more assistance, just contact me. My email's in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you. And I saw someone asked for the links to the Facebook page and Ravelry group, which I am frantically looking for. Karen, can you find those? Do you think post those? We'll figure it. Yeah, there's a Facebook group for people who are going on the cruise, and we could talk there and share. People have been sharing some links. Somebody shared, they made a spreadsheet to track stuff. Somebody else, we shared some YouTube videos that show either a similar cruise, or one of them showed the boat that we're going to be on. So it's a cool place that we can share and talk and communicate. And if you have questions, you can keep posting them there. Karen and I tend to try to monitor that. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much. Kathy posted the Facebook group. Now we just need the Ravelry link. Yeah, and that there is on Facebook, just so you know, there's Seascape Knit Trips has a page that's like the page where we just post stuff. but there is a group, a Facebook group for the cruise where you can like post, you can post, and not just we can post, and everybody can post. So that's the group. So, and that's what Kathy posted. Thank you, Kathy. And I promised a picture of the inspiration photo for the secret knitting pattern. So let me share that with you because I have that now. So it'll pull it up. And here it is. So there's my inspiration photo. So there will be a kit and a project, and it's inspired by this, which, Xandy, this looks like one of those pictures that you took too.
Really weird how blue the ice is.
It's incredible how like truly blue the ice really, really is truly blue. It's incredible. Yeah, really amazing. Yeah, the colors I think are going to be gorgeous. They really are. And I want to share another picture. This is not the inspiration picture. This is just another picture I wanted to share because, we're looking at all these things and it's, it's ice and it's a little overcast and that's some things we might expect. But also when I was there, we had a day like this where it was actually, we had at least 2 days like that, where it was crazy sunshine and just incredibly gorgeous, clear skies. This was a day that we were going up into to see the glaciers. They picked up a little baby iceberg for us to touch on the ship. So this was not Glacier Bay. This was one of the other fjords, and I'm forgetting which one, but we had seals floating on the icebergs. One of the other nice things about August is you do tend to have floating icebergs. So that can be kind of really interesting and exciting. And we can see them right from the ship, and the glaciers were calving in front of us. So there were, I don't think I caught any of them on my phone, but on my photos, but they were breaking apart and calving right in front of us when we were there in the ship. And I'm told that Glacier Bay is even more spectacular. So, I have high hopes that we'll get to have really nice looks at some of these amazing.
So can you get good enough pictures with your phone?
Those were pictures I took with my phone. And it was, a many generations, 10 years ago generation of phone.
My suggestion is that if you want to take pictures of animals like whales or seals, you might want something with a zoom lens. And you can actually get a lens that snaps onto some phones that has will improve your zoom. But it's not like I have the camera that I also teach classes with that has a 21 times zoom, just in case I want to get the animals far away. Like those bears some of them were really close, but they weren't that close. So you might want a zoom lens if you can.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of depends how good your camera is on your phone, right? Some of us have pretty good cameras with a lens on our, a good enough piece. We got my son a little zoom lens that clips onto his camera because he had an older camera, and it helped. It wasn't the same as having a DSLR. I'm going to say that wrong, but a really high-end camera. But he got some really cool pictures. Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. I saw Kathy posted the Ravelry group there too. So both of those places, or you can post or share things equally. Either place, we tried to give everybody options because not everybody's on Facebook and not everybody can use Ravelry, and so both places. Do we have any other questions that we didn't hit? I think I'm going to review, but I think we hit just about everything. Oh, somebody asked where the classes are going to be taking place. We have a couple different spaces in the ship. We have some spaces that during the nighttime are clubs and bars. And so some of our classes will be in that. They also have a space that's actually like a conference room for us. So we're going to put the classes in the places where they fit best, where they kind of, if we need tables, we have a space with tables and things like that. But I'm actually
also dining rooms.
Yes.
Some of the dining rooms.
Yes. I am actually going on a very short, not that short, seems short. I'm going on a cruise next week down the California coast on the same ship, the Ruby Princess. And I'm going to get to check out all of our spaces, the spaces that we've requested for all the different events that we're doing, and get a real sense of them. So we'll be able to.
That would be really good.
Yeah, we'll be able to really carefully make sure that we're putting, we're getting the places that are going to best suit the activities that we want to have. Any other questions?
So should we contact you if we have questions? I've only ever known the travel agent, and she takes a week to get back to you. So, if you have a question, how do you contact anybody? We don't have any links.
So it depends on the nature of your question. If it's something about your booking, if it's a question about your booking, that would be a question for the travel agent, because she's the one who interfaces that and is getting, all of our cabins with Princess and things like that. If you have a question about classes, you can certainly email Karen, and she put her email in the chat earlier. If you have a general question about, hey, what cruising, or like what kind of, is this jacket going to be warm enough? You can post those in our Ravelry groups and our Facebook group, and we probably are going to get answers not just from me and Karen, but from others who are on the cruise. So if it's a question that's sort of like, hey, does anybody want to get together to go to this yarn shop in Ketchikan with me? Post that to the group, and that's where you can communicate with your fellow cruisers and get that sort of question answered. But you can also reach out to me and Karen if it's things that are specific about the sort of the knitting portion of the cruise. And we've posted our emails in the chat there too.
You can, if you've forgotten or don't write down our emails or anything like that, you can also go to our website, and wherever it says contact, you can just send us a message and it comes to us as well.
Yeah, because I don't have Karen's, I have yours, but I have Amy's, but I can't find it in the chat.
Well, it's Karen at seascapeknittrips.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like she said, the Seascape website, seascapeknittrips.com, you can go there and click on the little contact button, and that'll get.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Sue said the Ravelry link didn't work for her. You would have to log into Ravelry to use it. I'll see if I can find the name. There's also, I can find the name of the group specifically. So if you logged in and if you're just looking for groups, you can just, the name of the groups is the name of the group is Seascape Knit Trips. So I will share this again, just in case it had part of the login on it or something like that. I'll try to share the more plain site that hopefully will get you there. But you would have to be logged into Ravelry I think to get there. And then we had a really good question about, here's one from Christine. If family are interested in going, do they go through Princess or through Seascapes, but they're not doing knitting classes? You can go through us, because I'm guessing if your family's coming, you would like them to get to do things like eat with us in the dining room and things like that, and also take advantage of the prices that we got. We did get some good prices from Princess that I think are lower than what they're offering to the general public now. But in any case, we, have them go through our website, and our travel agent will connect you so that you're part of this group. And that way, your family members who are not doing knitting will still be able to eat with us in the dining room. Your non-knitting companions will be included in that. We figured you probably want to eat dinner together in the dining room, and we'll be part of that space. Karen, any other instructions that you have? Because you are the one that knows more about this end of things.
Yeah, if it's rather than having them have to go through our booking form when they're not knitters, if you want to, I can either make the contact for you, or you can contact our travel agent and let her know that you're with our group. And then we've done it for another family as well.
Hi, Ross.
It's my husband. So whatever is easiest for you, if you would like to just contact me and have me facilitate that, that would be fine. And then they don't have to go through the booking form, which is probably going to have some things that they're not going to be able to answer because they're not knitters.
Like, what knitting classes do you want to do? Yeah. All right. And someone asked when the session ends, and we've already gone a little bit past when we thought it might go to. And I want to say a really huge thank you to Karen and Xandy for coming out to me with us tonight, to spend this time. Now, this is also the time of my regular Thursday night knitting group, my drop-in Zoom knitting group. And I know a few folks from there are here, and we chat, we knit, we talk about what we're knitting, and people unmute themselves and things like that. So I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you to Karen and Xandy, especially. Thank you to everybody that came, whether you're registered and coming on the cruise. And I'm so excited to meet you all in real life when we get to be on the cruise together. And those of you who are just dropping by to get some more information, I hope we've answered a lot of your questions. And to my regular Thursday night knit crew for hanging out on this. We're on a different channel than we usually are. Usually on Thursday nights, I'm going to share that, by the way. If anyone wants to join our regular Thursday night drop-in Zoom, I'm going to share. It's usually at a different Zoom number, and I'll share that. I won't share the whole Zoom number. I'm going to just share the place on my website where that is, because I think that makes it easier to find. I have a page on my website with the link. Every week you can go there and come hang out with us Thursday nights, 5 to 7 Pacific, which is 8 to 10 Eastern. Everyone's invited. It's casual. It's fun.